So the topic of today's conversation is a little bit different than usual. Usually we kind of bring in some, technology vendors and we talk about whatever it is they have to offer and we go through that. Today we're going to talk a little bit more on the side of remote work and kind of get some ideas from the team, some experiences, some products, those types of things, and kind of have more of a conversation forum around remote work and what that means. So I think we have kind of our subject matter experts here to talk through it. Maybe if you guys will just go through a little bit about who you are and what you do, kind of what your uh, speciality is within NetVPro. And maybe since Russell's got a shorter time today, maybe Russell, why don't you start, then go to Curt, then go to John.
Fair enough. My name is Russ Hopkinson. I've been with NetVPro now for a little over a year and a half, 2 years at the end of this year. Prior to that, I owned my own managed service provider firm, and before that was director of information technology for city government. Previous to that, the largest private investigations firm in the United States, and have had my hands in just about every facet of hardware and software available to IT. And what I currently do is basically just kind of everything. So if there's technology that needs to be addressed somehow, sometime,
Well, somewhere.
it tends to fall in my lap.
All right.
So
All right, thanks. Also, Curt, why don't you give us a little bit about who you are?
Really, you want me to follow
Yeah,
that up?
yeah. Well, misdemeanor follows misdemeanors, not felonies. So
uh,
convicted, never convicted.
I am Curt. Been with NetVPro going on 9 months. Um, Known Paul, the owner, for quite some time. We met doing high-end storage. He was actually my vendor for Dell Compellent. And I've done everything from government to big business. Mostly sat in the management chair, and now I'm getting back into getting my hands dirty on a daily basis.
Very nice. Dirty hands or the dope. No, that's a different saying. Never mind. John, go ahead. Well, one of the things I know, one of the themes of today's show is we're old. But go ahead, John. You go next.
Yeah, well, I'm John Anderson. I've been with NetVPro for 8 years now, a little over 8 years. Um, Before that, I was in more the telephone end of things and big like 3270 cluster controllers and IBM equipment. And uh, I do a lot of everything as well. Um, I'm like a not quite as on top of things as a Russell person. Russell, I'm like Russell's younger brother. There you
But
go.
older.
Younger, handsome brother.
But I'm older. Yeah, but I'm older. There's that.
Russell is like riding the barroom bull of technology. He's got his chaps on and he's riding that bull.
Bull and I have never been far separated. So yep.
Exactly. Exactly. All
And
right.
the
Well,
bowl is getting thick.
the bull is getting thick. Well, all right, guys. Well, thank you very much for kind of giving us an overview. So this whole work from home thing, um, we're all kind of exposed to it on different levels. I have a lot of customer interactions, and what I'm running into out there are customers. There's two things. One is customers who are having a hybrid work model, or maybe they're in the office 2 days a week, and then the other days they're remote. And then the other model that I'm running into is uh, organizations that are widely dispersed. So they might have a main headquarters location or the kind of the brain, if you will, but then those who do the work are uh, spread out throughout the country, helter skelter throughout the country. Are you guys, to kind of dip our toes into it, are you guys noticing similar, or do you have any other types of models that you're seeing out there?
I mean, that pretty much, covers the gamut. You've got the,
Yeah.
organizations, small organizations with like maybe just one or two individuals that work remotely, and then you have global organizations, like you said, that have a heavily dispersed population of staff that need their own individual types of solutions for their remote connectivity.
Right. So those types of workspaces definitely drive some unique needs. One organization that, well, actually a couple organizations that come to mind are in the HIPAA space. They're doing, either benefits work or medical coding type work. Any thoughts on how to secure that type of an environment?
Yeah, and you mentioned HIPAA, but HIPAA is arguably only one, albeit one of the major facets of compliance. But any compliance heavy organization or organization that is required to be heavily compliant with either federal, global, state, or industry requirements has to have something in place for this. And there are several methods of solving that problem. One of my favorites is using virtual desktops for individuals to log into. The main benefit of that is all of the data, all of the PHI or PII or whatever it is that can't get out anywhere else is all stored on the virtual desktops that are housed in a level 5 data center with armed guards, and nobody's picking up a computer and walking out from that joint. Sorry, go ahead.
So with that type of an approach, does it then make are you able to lock down that endpoint, that user's endpoint, so it's basically just display layer, so they're not able to store that NPPI data locally on their device?
Yeah, especially with the VMware's Horizon desktop solution that we're really fond of, you can lock things down to where they cannot plug in a USB drive into a local machine and transfer data to it. It cannot access any local drives, the C drive or any SSD partitions they have on that thing. You can really, really lock this down and make sure that absolutely no data gets out of that hosted environment,
Right,
which is one of the
right.
benefits. And I have been in several compliance audits in the past where the auditors have kind of taken me aside at the end and confided and like, hey, I need to be able to find something here. Can you give me a little something that I can just take and say that I found a discrepancy here? And yeah, we can point to things like, oh, okay, well, the accounts expire every 180 days instead of 90 days or whatever the passwords that is. But I've routinely been told that it's the easiest platform to audit and arguably the most secure that they come into contact with in the real world.
So I've been told in the past, and I've actually probably experienced it in the past. I mean, you don't necessarily do something like that, although arguably I think the cost savings are there, but you don't necessarily do that because of trying to drive cost savings. Like I said, when you put all of the stuff in there, you might be able to actually get cost savings when you consider things like power consumption and heat and cooling and all those things. But like, why do it? I mean, what are a couple of the benefits? One of the spaces that I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can have a less robust endpoint. Is that true? Do you
It is
find
true.
that to be true?
Absolutely. And the reason behind that is because the endpoint is really doing nothing at that point in time other than sending keyboard clicks, mouse movements, and display updates back and forth to the hosted desktop.
I'm well known for my mouse movements.
I know this. I was hoping for a segue there, but it looks like we're not going to go down that rabbit trail. But
Right.
yeah, that obviously the security that we touched on previously, the management is enormously easier when you can manage an entire pool of desktops and configurations, and you're not having to worry about, oh, I need to go ahead and replicate this setting to all these different devices in my physical organization.
Does the ability to do that then make that person's work life is no longer necessarily tethered to geography, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Anywhere they can get to the internet, they can jump onto their virtual desktop.
And it can be device independent, right? Because all they need is a browser, or how does that work?
You can either use a browser with a certain protocol, or you can use, VMware had, for example, has a freely downloadable Horizon View client that installs on iOS, OS X, obviously Windows. So I have connected to virtual desktops on my iPhone, on my iPad, on a Surface Pro, on a desktop from a server. Again, pretty much if you can get to the internet on it, you can get to your hosted desktop on it.
So even from a business continuity perspective, there's attractive elements of it.
Yeah, and one other thing too, you kind of touched on the whole issue of not requiring high horsepower devices to be able to connect to this type of environment. It also means that you don't have to necessarily refresh that equipment as frequently. You can literally run these things into the ground in terms of your older desktops or thin clients or even zero clients,
Right.
which most people don't even come into contact with. And these things just run and run and run like the Energizer Bunny, and you can just keep using it.
Another thing that in my past, that one of the things I liked about it was that user's content, or the content that they touch, create, manipulate every day, is then part of a data center infrastructure and can be backed up, versus having disparate machines spread throughout the country and having to figure out a backup strategy that looks more like a spider web.
Right, and having to
It,
use third-party tools like Dropbox,
yep,
OneDrive, whatever. Yeah.
yep, and it kind of pulls that together. What are some of the downfalls or some of the vulnerabilities of this type of a approach?
Not much in terms of vulnerabilities. Some of the cons associated with VDI or virtual desktop infrastructure would be, as you kind of alluded to a few minutes ago, cost. I tell people don't pursue VDI if you're looking to save money. That's really, like you said, not the reason to do that. There is a certain amount of knowledge required in order to effectively spin up a fully functional virtual environment. And the options there are, obviously spinning up your own, standing up your own VMware servers, your own Horizon environment. Another option is going with cloud providers who do have expertise in that area, who can basically just spin virtual desktops and servers up for you and then let you just manage them as if you were just managing a server or a desktop down the hall.
One of the things I usually, when people are asking me about it, one of the things I talk to them about is making sure the quality of the internet connection is there. If if you have a user who perhaps has a slow or sketchy internet connection, there can be challenges.
Not so much as you might think with VDI, because again, unless we're sending huge print jobs or doing scans of large documents, things like that. Again, the only traffic that's going back and forth are the keyboard, the clicks, the mouse movements, and the screen refreshes. So we're really not talking about a lot of traffic here.
Have the screen capabilities improved over the last couple of years? I know in past lives, I got some involuntary feedback on the quality of the images that, like, you push a button and then the letter shows up, then you push a button and the letter shows up sometimes. So, and I think that was before Horizon. So with Horizon, have they kind of corrected those issues?
Those issues typically are not a function or a downfall of the Horizon platform, or arguably whatever platform you use. That what you're describing right there in terms of, typing in letters and then watching the screen and then in a few seconds you see the letters actually come. That's indicative of a latency issue with your internet connection. You're dropping packets and they're having to retransmit and it's taking a while. So unless you've got some really, really, really spotty internet, you're not going to be seeing that.
Right.
Plus with video nowadays, the algorithms they use for compression, they've incorporated that in. So the latency you used to see, they're using that compression in those algorithms now. So a lot of that, latency that you used to see isn't there because they're using a lot of the technology from other areas.
Great point.
The other thing with the virtual desktop that's interesting to me is, depending on who's doing what depending on the work case or the use case. I think about persistent versus non-persistent images. So in other words, you can have a choice between when Jill shows up at work every day, she gets a fresh image that that is the same as it was the day before and the day before that. Or if she has a desktop and she's doing work, she can have that workspace look like it did yesterday, or it can carry over. Have you had both work case or both cases for that?
Yeah, and actually you can have the best of both worlds, really. You can have it to where every time you log into a non-persistent desktop, you see the same icons on your, on your desktop, you have the same applications. It's just as if, your desktop was reset back to the way it was before you logged on previously. With the exception of any files that you've saved like on your desktop. So the way that we typically do that without getting too deep into the technical weeds is we simply redirect folders like their documents folder, their downloads folder, their desktop folder to a central location so that regardless of where, or what desktop they log on to in a non-persistent type solution, it's always going to pull down the most recent versions of those files and populate them wherever they need to be. So you can have a user that just gets completely, whose workstation gets completely obliterated by a virus or some sort of malware, and you just tell them log off and log back on, and bang, they've got their desktop back to the state that it was when they first logged on in the morning. So there's a real attraction to that. Takes a bit more management and upfront thought, planning, configuration to do non-persistent desktops instead of persistent desktops, and it's really just a question of what you're trying to achieve.
I've also seen it where a community computer, every time they log off, it essentially nukes it and reloads a fresh image. So the person, like I've seen it in a library, when the person comes behind them, they don't see all of anything from the previous user. They get a nice, clean, fresh image every time.
Yep, same exact technology.
Place where I've used it in the past was at a couple call centers that the agent, so it's kind of interesting, the agents would have that non-persistent image, so they'd get a clean image every time they logged in, kind of similar to what Curt was describing. But then people who were doing analysis had persistent images so that their desktop was the same. And honestly, people really liked it because even in the home office, having that ability to like have a meeting and demo a new concept, but use the tools that you have on your desktop, they found to be very, very handy. So, like I said, it works well. But again, it's kind of like, that whole, you got to just understand the costs and stuff and those types of things. I guess one of the other ones that I wanted to talk about a little bit are other items as far as remote work, and it's kind of one of those things that people don't think about a lot is power, like UPS power for your house. People get out there, they get their stuff all set up. If they're not on a laptop, which has a battery, they're on a desktop. Do you guys have any thoughts about power?
Well, power, I mean, you're going to need power, regardless of what device you're using to connect from, be that, a battery in a laptop or, utility power if you're using a desktop. So, I mean, to the extent that you want to be able to work, yeah, you need power. UPSs are still, in my opinion, required even for, thin clients and zero clients.
Yeah.
But again, the nice thing is, and this kind of dovetails into our, before the meeting conversation about the hurricanes, is you can just have a site that completely gets, either obliterated from the map or, you have electricity that's out on that site for days and you have no generation power. You just basically tell the people, okay, grab whatever device you can, and work from wherever you can get internet access. And
right. Yeah, one of the places that I see people they kind of think about, they look at their workstation like, I need power there, but then they forget about their internet, the router to their ISP and stuff. So you need power in both places.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. How about telephony? I know that's kind of one of the things that, maybe gets lost in translation. I think there's some new technology out there that really enables that mobile workforce. I know we have a couple of products like 3CX, I think is a great example of one of those enabling technologies. Do we have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, just real quick, and I'm gonna have to bust out in just a minute or two here because I got Microsoft waiting for me. But uh
Lucky.
regarding yeah, like the Spectre. Um
Somebody pick up that name he just dropped, please.
yes, please. Well, that's me depending on them, not vice versa. So what I like to tell people today is there's really not much that you can dream up with, with regard to a phone system, especially with a 3CX, VoIP system that we use that can't be done. It can support, multiple sites. It can support hundreds, thousands of individuals, certainly remote workforces. I work, with 3CX all day long. I work from my desk phone. I also have it on my smartphone,
Yep.
and I can yep, there you go. I can take calls from anywhere. I can place calls from anywhere, and they all run through the company PBX. So it's a fantastic remote tool.
Yep. And there's a lot of kind of collaborative stuff with that as well. So like even messaging and one of the popular ones is the ability to text. I mean, it's a separate license, I think, isn't it?
Nope,
Oh, it's not. It's
nope.
part of it. So the ability to send SMS text is, well, I don't know if I want to say it's a big deal, but it kind of is because communicating with that younger workforce, they do text a lot. That's been a game changer for a couple of different organizations that I've been part of.
Yeah, and people don't want their employees to have to give away their own cell phone numbers in order to
Yep,
manage that type of communication. So, yeah.
yep, yep.
All right, I'm
All
going to go
right.
ahead and leave and let Curt and John have some more time in the limelight here. So,
All right. Well,
thanks for
thank you,
having me on,
Russell.
Keith. All right.
Yep, thank you. Yep, take care.
Yep.
All right, so Curt and John, part of what I wanted to talk about with you guys was the interface or the way the mobile workforce uses Microsoft 365. So do you guys have any thoughts on 365 in a mobile environment? I know we have it in a lot of offices have it. So what do you think about Microsoft 365 in the mobile space?
Well, they're the biggest player in town, and they've got it pretty well handled. We use it internally. We use SharePoint. We use Teams. We're extensive Teams users, and and it works very well. We're pretty spread out. I mean, we're spread out over what, four or five
Yeah,
states.
4 or 5
You
states.
know, so we don't have a lot of physical contact, and so pretty much everything we do is virtual.
Right.
And so, we use it. It works very well for us. It does take a little bit of training and a little bit of learning to use the tools, but the learning curve isn't bad. And we use it. We like it. We sell it. We use it.
Mhm.
Consuming our own dog food. It's wonderful.
Yeah, we were one of those places that, we were using Google and Slack for messaging and we were using some other tools. And like you said, John, we decided we need to eat our own dog food and we jumped into the um, Microsoft space hard, right?
Yeah.
And at first there was a little bit of, I don't know if I want to say, you know, people kind of not wanting to use it, a little bit of protest, but I think that we've really embraced it and we use the heck out of it. And I think that it's become an invaluable tool for it makes our organization feel smaller than it is, I think.
Right.
Well,
At
and
least.
the nice thing about using something like Microsoft is that it's all built together. Where if you're using Google tools and you're using this and you're using that, then they don't all play well together. Not that
Right.
Microsoft plays well together all the time in itself, but the chances are that it plays a lot better together a lot more often.
Right. You have a suite of applications that you can use. And like I said, we used, Google Docs, Gmail, stuff like that. Then we had, Slack for communication and Trello for project management. And you had all these different tools where now really you can have all of that and more within the Microsoft 365 suite of applications. And I think, I don't know if you guys have much experience with it, but maybe we should talk a little bit about, kind of the business process automation piece even.
One thing that I've been playing with here, and it's a Microsoft product, is Intune. And once you get it all dialed in, there's a tremendous, it's very powerful, and you can reload a computer from across the country just by hitting a button. So if I really wanted to play with Keith later, I could just hit the button and reload his computer and
Or wipe his phone.
don't give
or
me any ideas.
or destroy all the data on my computer for the last 5 years, which Keith had fun with today. Well, that's another story for another day. Let's talk a little bit more about Intune, because I hear it and people kind of get a sniff of it, but they don't really know a lot about what it is. So, what is Intune?
So it's a product by Microsoft, and it's like the old Norton imaging software, but on steroids. So we create an image and completely manage the device remotely. We can do laptops, desktops, can have different images. We can do cell phones. One of the places we have a container, so you can have your own personal cell phone, and we can push just a container down to it, and it has all your work applications in it. We partner with Dell at this one facility, and they basically put the serial number in Intune, and when it shows up on site, we log in with a special set of credentials, and it just shoves it right down its pipe. And after about 8 reboots, it's ready to go. And so you don't really have to babysit it, except for hitting enter once in a while.
I think we get a double word score for using the phrase of shoves it down its pipe. That's a pretty good one.
I had to edit that at the last minute.
Yeah, but so Intune has the ability to containerize and push to cell phones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Intune is one of the more misunderstood tools. But that's a separate license, right? That's not part of the Microsoft 365 suite.
That is
Is
a
it?
separate license.
Yeah. Right. Right. How about business tool automation? Do either of you guys have much experience with that? What's their tool called? I can't remember. Not business objects, because that's a separate product, but I can't think of the name of it now, but it's the ability to automate processes. I mean, we've done custom apps for and we even use it for like time off requests.
Are you talking
Like
about
it's
BI?
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Power
business
BI, maybe?
automate. Is it automate?
Power Automate.
Power Automate, that's what it is, Power Automate. So, we've done things where we create apps for, human resources departments. One of them is time off requests. Another one is new hires and terminations. Those things that are repeatable, that have kind of a route they need to follow.
Workflows. Workflows.
Yeah, workflows work very well. We've done it in production spaces where, like for food production, if there's quality issues, being able to route that complaint, so to speak, or that input to the various departments to find out where the quality issue is. On all of that, automation comes with I believe that's all included with the Microsoft 365 Business Premium license, E3 and above, I think. I might be wrong, but I think it's like the E3 license and above, where to me, that's another under contemplated tool that's just included as part of the Microsoft 365 environment.
They give you a lot with that little E3 license, but you pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an E3 license, and then does it step up to the Azure license for an E5?
That would be a John question, I think.
Well, and I don't know off the top of
I'm
my
not
head.
sure which one, but that business premium or the business standard license does have a lot of capability in there, and a lot of organizations tend to just kind of scratch the surface of that. And if you think about it, when you're having remote work, and you have this human resources function that needs to manage, time off and document distribution, those types of things, that Microsoft 365 suite of apps really lends to that. Again, geography becoming invisible, not mattering in that.
Power Automate is included in all three E license,
Nice.
or E3, E5, and F3.
Okay.
I'm looking at.
Yeah. No, that's very powerful tool. Like I said, we've done everything from workflows to inventory management. We've done some industrial inventory management with it. We even created a help desk app using that for one of our customers. So there's a lot of capability within just that little space that you can leverage in the business. Again, we eat our eating our own dog food. We use it for our time off requests and those types of things. So. What other items do you guys think we should touch on for remote workers, or remote capabilities? Do you think we've talked about the compute? I think we've talked about the phones. We've talked about the power.
I don't think we actually talked about one of the technologies that we use a lot and we just deploy to our customers pretty readily because it's kind of included in our program. And that's Screen Connect.
Yep.
Right. Yeah,
Yep.
I was going to bring that up. So Screen Connect is great if you have a worksite PC and somebody that has like a laptop at home. It offers the benefit that it offers is not quite as robust as the Horizons piece, but it still is. You're accessing a work computer from home, and really all you're doing is pushing display, keyboards, and mouse data. And so your data still resides at work. Somebody steals your laptop, your home laptop. Okay, well, I mean, it's horrible, but you're not losing company data that way. I like it due to its simplicity, and heck, we use it internally. Some of our customers use it. It's a cheaper alternative that works well for a good segment of our clients.
Well, let me ask this question: Does that replace or augment the use of a VPN?
It kind of replaces it, because you're doing everything on your work computer, so the data doesn't leave the work site, and basically you're controlling your work computer from another remote computer. So there are things you can do to get files to your home computer. If you want that capability, we can enable or disable that on a per user basis. So, your CEOs, your financial people, they might want to have some access to that info from home, but a lot of other users, you may not want to have that access. And another thing is you're using your existing file permissions without having to touch any of that stuff. Your users log into their local computer. Now they're just on the domain, and everything works just like it does when they're sitting in front of their desktop. It replicates their desktop experience at work. So it's easier for them to transition to working from home because they're not using a VPN, and now it's connecting up to your local computer at home, and now you've got a different experience. Once you're logged in, you're at your work basically.
And for one customer, you know, and we use it for multiple of our customers, we use it for remote support.
Right.
So it's an easy, very efficient way to do remote support, and you can see without a lot of bandwidth what the person's doing on the far side.
Right. And it works for remote assistance as well. Say I've got a client that's having trouble with whatever it is on their computer. We use that to hop on with them and work interactively with them. And they can do the same thing there, you know, internally for if they have an IT person that can help their other employees, they can assist them as well and not necessarily have to get us involved.
So they can use it between users in their organization too, if they grant permission.
Correct. And it's permission based. So, you know, you don't usually you'll let one person access their own work computer, but say you have an IT person that would have access to all of them for reasons of offering assistance.
Good. Very good. Well, thank you. That was a good catch. I hadn't talked about Screen Connect. We kind of glanced over, you mentioned VPNs a little bit. Do we think that VPNs are still what they used to be, or do we think that the use of VPNs is dying a slow, painful death for connectivity back to the office in a mobile environment?
I think there's a time and place for everything, and I don't think that, you know, we've pulled the plug on that yet. You know, one customer, we're moving away from the terminal server into the VPN because of the resources that they have, and you know, the amount of travel some of these people do. You know, some of the hotels and stuff like that, or even some of the countries these people travel to, they restrict access through certain ports and the ability to touch certain things. So
Right.
VPN kind of takes care of that.
And I haven't seen much of it. I've seen a little bit, but I haven't seen a lot of it. But have you guys encountered the use of, for lack of a better way to describe it, a residential class of firewall? So a smaller firewall that may be a private or a smaller use case versus, you know, kind of an enterprise firewall. But have you guys seen that much in the remote workspace?
If you're talking about VPNs, then maybe. If you're talking about these other technologies we were talking about, the firewall doesn't enter into it as much. It's not as critical of a piece of equipment, which makes it easier from a management standpoint for the company involved.
Right. How about before we run out of time here, how about things like antivirus and security? You know, are we seeing, when we start thinking about the remote workforce, is antivirus still the player that it once was, or is it moving towards something that's more behavior based, you know, like Blackpoint, you know, and maybe having the Microsoft Defender antivirus on the laptop, maybe not putting the financial resources into buying an antivirus tool in favor of the SOC or the MDR type of a tool? What are you guys seeing for that, or thoughts around that?
Just get a Mac. Nobody attacks a Mac.
Nobody attacks Mac.
That's because there's so few in the workplace. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Right.
Antivirus it still plays a key role. In addition, my personal opinion is that what's almost more important than antivirus is employee education.
Mhm.
That to me plays a bigger role, because if you got the employee that understands the threat and won't fall for whatever's coming via email or picking up that flash drive and sitting in your driveway, you're gonna avoid those problems just out of the chute, just by knowing what you're doing.
Right.
Things like Blackpoint have really started to invade the workplace, uh, because they do a better job than antivirus. Antivirus is more reactionary. Hey, you've got this virus. Let's try and clean it up. Whereas Blackpoint and there's some other
Mhm.
technologies that say, hey, this looks suspicious. We're going to block it before you encounter a problem.
Right. 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 Yeah. No, all kinds of tools that are kind of going down that road now. And maybe this could be our last subject to talk about. And this is more of a what do you think thing. Where do you see things going with artificial intelligence and the work from home? Do you see any kind of products coming around from a AI perspective, or do you think there's a play for AI in the work from home? What do you guys think about that?
AI scares me. It really does. Mostly because, uh, well, from a like a social media standpoint, or even from a work standpoint, they can do the deep fake stuff they can do now.
Yeah.
It they can have an AI impersonate your CEO and send out a message to your employees, and it looks and sounds convincing. And so I think the trust factor is going to really have to be dialed back with a lot
Right.
of things with remote, work from home. And you're going to have to verify things much more than we've had to
Mhm.
in the past.
Yeah, I think that tools like Chat GPT, um, people don't yet know what that means uh in the workforce, right? I mean, so
Right.
if I'm at home and part of my job is creating content and I use Chat GPT to create some of that content, um, is that covered by copyright? Or am I free to use anything that would be produced in Chat GPT? I don't think that any of that has been tried out yet, you know?
Well, and how good is that information going to be? It's
Right,
Where's Chat GPT getting its info?
right,
You
right.
know,
So
if it's
kind of an
relying on
interesting,
social media, you're going to screw yourself in the
right,
process.
kind of an interesting thing to think about is, what, when you're reviewing a contract, has that contract been produced by a person or was that contract produced by Chat GPT? One of those types of things, kind of an interesting thing to think about. Or, even if you're a content creator, can I get 80% of the way home, by using Chat GPT, and what used to take me 5 hours will now take me an hour and a half, you know, those types of things. So how, the way to use, how can you use that as a force multiplier?
The other thing with AI that's scary is big box stores like Walmart, Target, Home Depot. They will trend and track you by your credit card and then associate it to a Bluetooth. So when you walk into a store, they have receivers that are tracking your Bluetooth on your phone, and then they will start noticing that you spend a lot of time in the TV department. They will start marketing TV to you. And if you go into a Walmart, you'll get a survey and you're like, I paid cash. How do they know that I was here?
I was wondering why I kept getting marketed women's clothing. It's odd.
Uh, thank you, I think.
Plus size.
Husky Petite, it's called.
Eric, you get all of his decorative things for the power lunches, like all of your tutus and things like that.
Yeah, the frilly stuff. I like that Husky Petite. That's great, actually.
It's copyrighted.
All right. That's funny. All right, very good. Um, any thoughts or questions from anybody who's out there? Open it up to anyone and everyone. Any questions, thoughts, ideas? Hearing none and seeing nobody go off mute. Piper, are we ready to do the wheels of fun and happiness?
We are. You
All right.
correctly labeled it this time too.
Yeah, right. I'm doing the best I can despite what my hat says.
All
I've
right.
had a very sobering day, so maybe my death stuff isn't where it used to be.
You know, if you need some IT support, I know a guy you could maybe
Yeah, I might
call.
need to call you for
Just
at
saying.
least for some counseling. So
Can you see my wheel?
yes, we can see your wheel.
All right, ignore all the tabs I have open and just give
That's nothing.
it.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Look at that, Mr. Raj. Very good.
Yay.
Better late than never when you're talking. What is it, an Amazon gift card today?
Yep.
Nice. Very good. Well, if anybody has questions about kind of the remote work landscape, or you want to see a technology or overview of several, just get a hold of us, get a hold of me, let us know, and we'll be happy to kind of talk through it with you. So, very good. Everyone have a good rest of the day, rest of the week. Stay cool. Nice weather in Minnesota finally. It's not 253 degrees.
Yeah, and when we see you guys next time, we're hoping to make this into a series, so we'll kind of get more in depth
Yep.
with singular work from home items.
Yeah, we'll do some deeper dives on different specific technologies. So very good. Thanks everybody. Take
All
care.
right.
Have a good day.
Yep. Yep. Bye-bye.